Hi, everybody. Bryan Norcross here with a Sunday midday update on what's going on in the tropics with Tropical Depression number 9, which is forecast to eventually become Tropical Storm Imelda and then Hurricane Imelda. And we also have, of course, Hurricane Umberto, Category 4 hurricane, well offshore. So, what's going on with Tropical Depression 9 first, because this is the one that has the potential to affect land? Well, the forecast, which is really great, has really changed, so we don't have a direct impact in the southeast any longer. But this is where we are right now, 35-mile-an-hour winds as of the 11 o'clock advisory Eastern time, and 1,002 millibars. There's where the system is located. You see it's still very disorganized. And the other thing you see is look at the moisture streaming north out of this. There's a dip in the jet stream that's back in here that is pulling the moisture north. So that moisture well ahead of the system, even though no longer is Imelda forecast to make landfall, the moisture will get up into the southeast, and we do have a threat from that. So we'll keep that in mind. We'll talk more about that here in just a second. You can see the system wobbling around here trying to get itself developed. Let's look at it close up, and you can see the circulation very clearly right in there, right by the southern tip of Andros Island. As I said, hurricane hunters have been out there flying around and located that very well for us. We also see this cluster of thunderstorms right here that's trying to wrap around, and then we have this big band out here trying to wrap around. All these things are going to be part of the eventual Imelda when it gets organized, moving north in the direction of Nassau, and then it'll move up into the northwestern Bahamas as a stronger storm. That's the thinking right now. Right now, the radar, remember here, is coming out of Miami, so we're not seeing the rest of these bands out in here, but no doubt they have rain in them. And we can see where this band comes wrapping around here, and healthy tropical moisture spreading toward the coast. So some of this is going to reach the coast. Dangerous boating conditions. They're here in South Florida. Dangerous boating conditions, and of course at the beaches. Pay attention to the lifeguards, and we'll see if these bands can make it over the metropolitan area. The thinking is that they might, and gusty winds are possible, but no sustained winds in the Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade County area for 40 miles per hour or higher. But gusts are certainly possible. Exactly how many of these bands reach the coast have to do with exactly the track that the storm takes and how strong it gets as it moves north. But this is going to continue through today and into tomorrow along the southeast coast. We also see up here another complex that's been bringing rain right along the coast north of the Palm Beaches. This is really more related to a non-tropical system. The tropical system is kind of down here, but spreading moisture north, more an old front in there. So here we can see kind of a line right in there, and then we have another line here. Indeed, when we look north, we can see these clouds. Look at these clouds. They're moving that way, and then these clouds here are moving that way. So in between, we have a cold front in there. So eventually, this moisture here is going to overrun that cold front, and we expect kind of persistent rain across the southeast, probably not till later today and into tomorrow, and that's going to last into Tuesday at least, as I'll show you here in just a moment. That's why we still continue with a potential flood threat up in that area. All right, let's look at the cone, and this is the really great news from this morning. The Google DeepMind model kind of hinted at this yesterday, and indeed this morning it's happened. So here's the storm moving north, 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm over the northwest Bahamas. That would be tomorrow morning, and then moving out, but not moving out quickly. Here it is by tomorrow evening. But remember, most of the bad weather with this system is going to be in advance of it. And then on Tuesday, it's in this area as a hurricane kind of offshore of Cape Canaveral. All right, so then you can kind of get the hint to see what's happening there. As we go forward in time, it zooms out to sea, picking up speed. Bermuda has to watch it about Thursday after they watch Umberto Tuesday and Wednesday. So it's they all seem to be going one way or the other near Bermuda. But of course, Bermuda is well fortified for these things, and we'll see exactly how close it comes. Bermuda's a little speck kind of in the middle of a big ocean. All right, here's Umberto. Look at this, 150 mile an hour winds now, and there's the estimated pressure, and it's weakening a little bit. It was 160 yesterday. Conditions become a little more hostile. Here's the cone for Umberto. You see the wind speeds go down, so we're down to 140 here tomorrow morning, and it's still moving along at a good clip and kind of picking up, going around Bermuda and then on out to sea. Here, the Tuesday morning time frame, when it's in this area here, it's just close enough to Imelda in this area here to have the flow around Umberto slow down Imelda, keep it from getting up here to the Carolina coast. All right, so let's follow these two storms. Here we are with the tropical depression. Here you see the moisture in that band trying to wrap around here like that. We also see the moisture spreading north that you saw on the satellite and the radar. And over here is our Category 4 Hurricane Umberto. And we see just light moisture over the coast, nothing significant. We're going to see if that's going to move in. Okay, moving forward in time, looking in the upper left at the time, here we are tomorrow morning. Notice that the European model has it closer to the coast, and the National Hurricane Center forecast right here a little farther offshore. So if it goes a little closer to the coast, better chance that those squalls and rain bands with possible tropical storm force winds are going to impact the coast. That's why we have the watches from north of the Palm Beaches on up to just north of Daytona. But look how much closer the Category 4 hurricane is getting. The closer it gets, the more impact and influence that it has. So there we are tomorrow. Now let's go to Tuesday, and you can see it's starting to bend out as the flow around Umberto holds it back, keeps it away from the Carolina coast. But look at the moisture over all of the southeast there. So southeastern mountains, hill country, and so forth, even the low country, expecting rain, kind of a continuous rain related to that front just to the south. So just stay in close touch with any kind of alerts there for potential flooding, because it's just going to be persistent as this thing slowly moves. Then we go to Wednesday, it moves offshore, and you can see another kind of front coming down here, pushing the moisture south, but still moisture lingering across the south, and then it moves on out to sea. All right, what's driving all this? Well, I mentioned the dip in the jet stream. So this is the dip in the jet stream that's trying now to pull Imelda, or potential Imelda, to the north with the depression right now. You can kind of make out that if you look at the colors, you see that they're kind of connected right now. The other thing that's doing it is the high pressure out here, flow around the high pressure, you can see like that. So that's what's driving Imelda, but neither of those are very strong, and the Category 4 hurricane is limiting the influence of the high pressure at the current time. So here we are today, and there's this other big, strong jet stream up here that's not influencing things yet, but it will come into play. All right, here we go, forward in time to tomorrow. Now we're at tomorrow, kind of early afternoon. You see we're still getting some influence here, so still pulling the system north, but the Category 4 hurricane is getting in the way of the upper level flow, or the steering flow from the high pressure system is kind of cut off. Though that's why it's all this one kind of pulling it that way. That's why it's paralleling the Florida coast. This, you might have noticed, is dipping down a little more up here. That's a very powerful kind of system. All right, here we go to Tuesday. Now what's happening? This one is losing its influence as it's weakening here. This one is gaining influence. You can see that it's kind of coming down here, tugging on these two. And as we go forward in time, it's going to be the steering mechanism as it reaches in and grabs Umberto, and it's reaching down and grabbing Imelda, pulling it offshore. So sort of the transfer of where the steering is coming from as we go through the week, and we have pretty high confidence in this. And the reason we have high confidence is we have confidence in the computer models, in the consensus of the computer models. So if you were watching today, this is the American GFS model, and we look at ensembles, because this is each model showing us what it thinks the range of reasonable possibilities is based on its calculations. It's not thinking, obviously, it's just making calculations. And notice none of them impact the southeast. Almost all of them go like that. A few stragglers up here call for stalling. In this case, each model is about 3%, more or less. So about 6% that it goes up there, and almost everything goes on offshore. So that's with the GFS. And now I'll add the European. Each one of these is about 2%. So we end up with about 6% chance of it making landfall, but obviously by far the highest percent is offshore. That gives us confidence, and the Google AI model is very confident. Notice how close together the lines are packed, that it's going to go up, get here about Tuesday, and then shoot on offshore. So putting all that together, that's why we have high confidence that this is not going to be a direct impact on the southeast. Very, very low chances. So we take all that data and put it together in this tropical threat graphic, and it shows you where the consensus is when you look at all of that information, that it's going to come up, high confidence and high confidence that it's going to turn, odds very low, less than 10% chance, well less than 10% chance up there of a system moving ashore into the southeast. And, you know, could it wobble and come far enough to the left to have some impact along the coast? Yes, it could. It wouldn't be a direct impact, but that's why they have the tropical storm watches in effect from about Jupiter, north of the Palm Beaches, on up to just north of Daytona Beach for that possibility. Also depends on how strong it gets and when. If it's a stronger storm in here, that would have a little bigger influence and could impact the coast. This graphic doesn't have anything to do with the strength of the storm, though. This is all about where the center of the storm is forecast to be based on those various computer forecasts. And there you see the wider view that Humberto forecast to zoom out to sea, and this one forecast to go behind it. So great news today. We have confidence that this is not going to be a direct impact, although there will be effects along the coast of Florida and in the southeast. Everybody just stay in touch with the local alerts and information for your area. Stay safe. And it looks like this thing is going to move on out here, and we're not going to have any problem from it at all after about Tuesday. In Bermuda, obviously, they're going to have to watch it. All right, thanks, everybody. Have a good day.